Hey everybody, Robert with Hamseka Archery, and you're watching Tuesday's Tip of the Week number 118. In this week's video, I'm going to give you 3 tips on how to build accuracy. Essentially what we're going to do is talk about making a shot plan, so a shot routine. And I'm going to break these down into different segments in the Tuesday's Tip of the Week video here and look at limiting overall movement, go into a little bit more in detail of what that means. Also look at our fitment, especially around our peep height, and then talk about the follow through and kind of a mindset around our shot execution itself and how all that looks. So it gives you more of a direction to take your shot and a focus point versus just shooting the arrow, giving up too early and creating some issues. In the members video this week, I'm actually going to go in depth on my shot routine. I'm going to go through each step that I take, why it's there, why it's important to me, and give you insight in on what I'm doing as checkpoints throughout every time I draw the bow back, get to full draw before I start my shot execution. All right, first thing that we're going to talk about here is limiting overall movements. And what I mean by that is we don't want a lot of unnecessary excess movements that we then have to try to repeat perfectly every single shot. It's going to kill your accuracy. It's going to make your life much more difficult than it needs to be. So let's break this down into some key areas that I build into my shot routine that I think everybody can benefit from, and go through that really quickly. And the main thing that we want to look at is we want our stance to be set before we draw the bow back. I see this a lot with archers for whatever reason. They'll step up to whatever they're doing, whether it's a tournament line or just taking a shot in the backyard. They'll put their feet in a position, they'll start to draw, they'll shuffle their feet while they draw the bow back. They'll get themselves to anchor and they'll shuffle their feet again, and then they'll shoot, and then they'll wonder why they missed. And your stance, the way it's open, closed, how that controls our hips, our shoulders, the angle of the bow shoulder actually creates our body's draw length. And if we change that from one shot to the next, and during the shot especially, we are then changing the angle of our shoulder, how the bow fits us, our anchor points, and creating a ton of problems. So we want to make sure that our stance is set first, and then don't move it while you're going through your shot. And the next thing we want to look at is the drawing motion. We want this to be super simple. I recommend that everybody has their pin slightly above the middle of whatever target they're going to be aiming at. Presets the angle of the shoulders that way for you to be in line with the target. And it's also going to limit overall movement. So we want to draw the bow back. And as we're getting to full draw with the bow, before you anchor, you want to make sure that your pin is then, you're already looking through your scope, seeing the pin or your dot on the center of the target or just above it, depending on what you need. So like me personally, I need that just above the center of the target. But then while you're there, you're already on target, you're already in the right spot. Then you just simply bring your hand over to your face to anchor, and that lines up your peep with your scope. And at that point, you don't have to then line up the peep and the scope and search for the target, move our body around, change our shoulder position, try to lift the hand up and create more problems, anything like that. We're having a solid drawing motion, getting ourselves on target much easier, and getting to anchor much more efficiently. And that will really help a lot of you that are still building up their muscles for shooting, or maybe their fitment isn't correct for you and you can't hold on target for very long. This is going to limit the amount of time it takes you to get on target so that you have a longer shot window of good float. All right, the next thing that we want to talk about is our fitment. Now, obviously, your draw length and your loop length plays a huge role in this, and I've done a lot of videos on that, so I'm not going to spend too much time in this video today on that. What I really want to talk about is peep height, and this is an area that I think a lot of people overlook, but when you're looking at your overall accuracy and consistency, having the correct peep height for you can make a lot of difference. So what do I mean by that? Well, if you are bringing your hand over to anchor and getting to a comfortable position to anchor for you, and that peep doesn't automatically line up with the scope and halo everything the way that you want it to, you're then going to have to start moving your hand around and try to get everything to line up. That's going to hurt your overall accuracy but it's also going to, over time, if you have a long shot or a fast shot, you're going to notice a wider spread of inaccuracy downrange because your hand is going to want to get back to the natural position it would like to be in, especially on a longer shot. You have a lot of people talk about they start having their peep and scope will start moving in some weird directions and the peep starts coming out of the scope and it's causing problems. A lot of the times the reason that's happening is because you just don't have the peep height correct for where you naturally need it and want it to be, and your hand is just trying to get back to that position. So you're having some issues with it. So the way that I like to go through this with people is I personally like to use my mid row of knuckles here on my hand as my anchor point, not the base knuckles. I use this and a little bit of the finger in between, and I put it right on the edge of my jaw, right along the bottom edge of it, kind of that bottom outer edge for me. Everybody's gonna be a little bit different. That's what I like to do. I recommend using these mid row of knuckles versus the base knuckles on your hand for a couple reasons. The majority of people are going to need a loop link to get their rear shoulder in place. It's going to put the base knuckle of their hands behind their jaw, and they're not going to be able to anchor that way. And the other reason is depending on how you anchor with your hand more flexed or flat and how you work through your shot, whether you let your hand stretch or not, you're going to start changing your face tension, pressure, and anchor point if you use this base knuckles here. So use this mid knuckles, and that's that area there along with the finger and everything, and that will be much more consistent for you. Little pro tip and a little bit of a bonus tip on this: shoot at 20 yards without a peep sight and sight yourself in up and down as well as you possibly can. Put your peep sight in the bow. Don't change your sight, just change the adjustment of the height of the peep until you're hitting at 20 yards the way that you were before. And that's going to help you get to your natural position for anchor point and what you're looking for as far as where you need the height of your peep. All right, now tip number 3 is going to incorporate our follow through into what we're looking at as our shot routine, the ending phase of our shot routine. And the reason I like to look at our follow through is the end goal versus an arrow releasing is because it allows us to stay in our shot a little bit longer, and it will over time help you keep from shortening your shot timing and eventually giving up on your shot. And what I mean by that is if you've ever seen somebody start shooting and their accuracy is horrible, or maybe they're hitting low a lot, they don't know what's going on, but as soon as that arrow is releasing from the bow, you see their bow hand drop and their release hand drop, and maybe they're trying to peek out and see around the bow and see where the arrow went. Or maybe they're already trying to reach their hand down and grab another arrow to load into the bow, whatever they're doing. Their goal is to shoot that shot, to make that arrow hit the target, to fire their release, something of that nature. Their goal is not to maintain proper form all the way through their shot. So when I'm looking at myself, my end game on my follow through, my goal with every single shot is to maintain as close to 100% perfect form for the longest amount of time. So I'm trying to stay with my follow through, or my hand is staying up and my release hand is staying over my rear shoulder after the arrow has hit the target, and I'm just holding that position. I'll check where the arrow landed later. I'm grading my shot based off of how well I hold my form through follow through, how well my bow hand stays up, goes to the direction of the target. Same thing with my release hand going back over my shoulder. That's my goal. So when you are shooting, make sure that your goal is to have proper follow through, not to fire the shot. That shot's going to fire however it's going to fire with your execution manner. The arrow's going to hit wherever it's going to hit. You can't control that once it's left your bow. The only way that you can help yourself is to maintain your form for as long as possible. Thank y'all again for watching this video today. If you would like to see more videos like this, join the members portion of the channel. You get an extra video each week. Maybe it's a live video, maybe it's a in-depth continuation of what we talked about here on the channel that day, or something completely different. I've got a couple things in mind that I think will be kind of fun to put on there here in the near future, revolving releases, shot execution, maybe my processes, things that I'm going through. So if you're still watching to this point, comment down below archery vision. Appreciate each and every one of you for your support of this channel, subscribing, liking, sharing these videos and all of that. Your comments helps the algorithm here in YouTube to get these videos out to more people. And it helps me, honestly, personally as well, by giving a little bit of financial incentive to be able to get some different equipment, some things like that that I can test and roll through and help make better videos. So thank you all again for watching. I'll see you soon.